Everybody, welcome to Vince on a Tuesday. It's great to have you with us. We've got a big show ahead. What is it going to take for Republicans to both dominate in the midterms and for them to win the White House once again coming up in 2028? We will discuss this, one of the biggest topics imaginable. We'll keep talking about it as these elections barrel forward. We've got to get to that today. Also, we have some new revelations around Jeffrey Epstein. As President Trump says, hey, we're going to release literally everything, Democrats have now become completely incoherent on this subject. I've got some great audio to share with you. And our friend Matt Van Swol stops by again. Can't wait to chat with Matt and can't wait to chat with you all ahead on this edition of Vince with the best audience anywhere. Thank you for being here. Hey, let me start with a question for you today. Are you aware, by any chance, of House Bill Section 702? 702. This extends the rights of government agencies to legally spy on American citizens without the need for a warrant. And Congress, well, they just renewed it this year for another 2 years. So we're all being spied on. And we deserve better from our government, and we should demand better. So how do you protect yourself from this? Well, ExpressVPN is a great way to do it. ExpressVPN is a virtual private network that reroutes 100% of my internet activity through secure encrypted channels so nobody has access to my online activity. ExpressVPN hides my IP address so data brokers can't even use the number to create a profile and log everything that I do online. ExpressVPN is easy to use. It just takes one click, and it works on all of your devices. And you can have it on up to 14 devices at once. ExpressVPN is really easy. It's very easy. It's literally just a click of a button, and boom, it's activated, and it gives you the privacy that you deserve. You deserve to be able to browse the web without the government or data brokers or anybody else hovering over your every action. To hell with them. Get them out of your life. We need to demand better from everything, including our government especially. But until we can change what is happening in our country, you should protect yourself like I do with ExpressVPN. And right now, if you go to expressvpn.com/Vince, you can get 4 extra months of privacy. That's expressvpn.com/Vince. All right, so President Trump last night met with all of these McDonald's franchise owners all across the country, big McDonald's conference, which is really great. And here's how the president began. He said, look, I speak to you as a humble fry cook who's risen to the heights of American power. Here he is.
I'm honored to stand before you as the very first former McDonald's fry cook ever to become president of the United States. And I actually was there for about 30 minutes, and that was 30 minutes longer than Kamala was there. Right? Despite her job at McDonald's, that didn't work out too well. And the person at McDonald's that informed us off the record that she never worked there, whoever you are, we appreciate that.
That's hilarious. He was commenting on what he's referencing is, remember the Washington Free Beacon, great publication. They exposed that Kamala Harris didn't actually work at McDonald's. Nobody has any memory of her actually being employed there. That was a part of her hardscrabble upbringing as she was running for president of the United States in an unearned candidacy. The president pointing out that, yeah, that was a scam. And then he ended up working a half hour longer than she ever worked as a fry cook. And that was, remember that moment? I mean, that was such a defining feature of the campaign. You know, were it not for the fact that the president was shot and then rallied from that assassination attempt, the McDonald's thing would have probably been the biggest event in the entire campaign. And I remember, I don't know about you, but I remember this. The media thought that this was stupid, that, oh, what a stunt. This is ridiculous. I can't believe he's doing this. And, of course, President Trump does it. He works the drive-through. He works as a fry cook. He goes in there with like a genuine, like a childlike enthusiasm, like a kid who's being showed the North Pole. Like, hey, this is where Santa and the elves prepare all the gifts. He was enthusiastic about it, which was great to see. And he had a great time, and it was just such a great moment in the campaign. And it just reminded the voters that this guy, he's accessible. You know, he doesn't pretend to be anything. He always shows up in the suit and the tie. But he has an appreciation for people no matter where they are in life. And the guy genuinely loves McDonald's. I mean, how many times have we seen him order McDonald's for people on whether it's on the plane that he's flying around the country or for sports teams that are visiting the White House. The guy likes the place. I'm sure that drives RFK Jr. crazy. It's not exactly the healthiest food in the world, but McDonald's, they've got a formula, and it's working. It's working. In fact, here's the president saying last night he is the most loyal customer imaginable to the Golden Arches. Cut 2, here's the president.
As you may have heard, I'm also one of your all-time most loyal customers. I really am. Well, I think that's good. I'm pretty sure that's good. While other politicians fly around on campaign planes stocked with expensive catering, on Trump Force One, prior to ascending to Air Force One, which is quite a nice plane also, we served only McDonald's almost every time. On occasion, we couldn't find one, which is pretty hard to believe. We'd go another route, but we really did. You fed us very well, and I even got Bobby Kennedy to eat a Big Mac.
Big Mac is legendary, man. I don't know about you, man, but that was my go-to for years. I've dialed it back a little bit. Now I just go for the McChicken. If I'm quick to McDonald's, just a McChicken. I think it's like one of the cheapest items on the menu, and it's a lot lower on the calories than a Big Mac. A Big Mac's a heavy operation. Are you a double quarter pounder guy, Justin? Really? Isaac just nodded feverishly too. So you guys are double QPC. How many calories are in a double QPC though? I mean, let me just off the top of my head, what is that? 800 calories? That's a handsome meal. A double quarter pound of cheese. A lot of protein, but anyway, McDonald's, the fries, I don't know what they do. I'm pretty sure they lace them with crack cocaine. But the trick to McDonald's fries is you got to get them as soon as they're in the bag. As soon as they're in the car, when they hand them to you, they're hot out of the oven. And if they're kind of just a little moist, floppy, and hot, holy crap, those things are good. You got to be careful. McDonald's is still pretty good. I can't believe I'm doing a spot for McDonald's right now, but I do like McDonald's. Hey, the president also went on. The reason he's talking is not just because he loves McDonald's and he thought it was such a valuable part of his campaign. He's also fundamentally talking about what's going on in the country in terms of the economy. And this is the sweet spot. The more time that the president can spend on getting the economy back on track from the mess that Joe Biden left us with, the more time that Republicans as a party can concentrate on this above all else, fixing the economy, the guarantee of electoral success is baked into the cake. This is the sweet spot. Here's the president talking about some of the employment numbers we've already had this year under his administration. Cut 3, take a look.
1.9 million more American-born workers are employed today than when I took office. Think of that. 1.9 million more today and these are American-born workers. Nobody thought that was possible. And we have the strongest borders in the history of our country. Nobody comes in unless they come in legally. You see the numbers. Everyone thinks it's impossible. A year ago, millions of people were storming our borders. Today, they only come in if they come in legally.
I love this. Remember, it's hard to remember everything that's happened, but here's something worth remembering. When President Trump came into office, he reversed an awful trend that was taking place under Joe Biden when it came to jobs. Now, as you know, it's been notoriously difficult to track the jobs numbers because the government has been notoriously crappy at documenting them. But to the extent that we've been able to do it over the long run, here's what we've learned. And my in-house economist, E.J. Antoni, has talked about this with me for years. So I've been tracking this really closely. With Joe Biden, remember all of the so-called job gains, you know who those went to? They went to foreign-born workers, people who were not born in the United States, taking jobs in the United States of America. Meanwhile, native-born Americans kept losing employment under Joe Biden. People who were born in this country were being set back under the Biden administration in terms of employment. The other sector that grew dramatically was the government. Government jobs kept growing. So the two categories that were growing like crazy were foreign-born workers and government jobs. That's not sustainable. That's how you lose your country. native-born Americans are losing out and the economy is becoming more federal and less private, that is destruction. That trend has reversed, thank God. Native-born Americans, you heard the president reference it there, have gained jobs dramatically in the United States while Trump has been president of the United States once again this go-around. The government sector jobs, they've been shrinking. They've laid off a ton of people in the federal government, a ton. They've been shrinking entire agencies. They've been getting rid of, like crazy stuff, like absolute slush funds that the left had set up that were inside of the federal government, just getting rid of them. USAID, it's perfect. We need more of that, please, more. So the president's got his eye on the ball. That's the right thing. Native-born Americans gaining jobs in the United States, wages on the rise, some of these prices coming down, that's really big. But the president says, we've got a long road ahead of us and not a lot of time to deal with this. So we've got to move now. Here's the president talking about the mess that Joe Biden left behind and how he's working to fix it. Cut 4. Take a look.
The Biden administration started the affordability crisis, and my administration is ending it. I'm ending it. Prices are way down. If you just look, so we don't have, as I said, the inflation, but our energy prices are way down. And, despite hamburgers being a big business, energy is one business that's bigger. When you get energy down, everything else is affected. If you start bringing the price of gas, that's like a massive tax cut. In the past 6 months, the price of breakfast items has fallen 14%. Bread prices are down. Dairy prices are down. The price of eggs has declined 86% since March, and much more than that since when I took over. Because when I took over, it was an egg crisis, as we said. And I want to give a very special thanks to McDonald's for slashing prices for your most popular items, bringing back extra value meals, and I hear you're recommitting to the affordable options of Americans that we really know and love, all of the items that we love.
He's great. Isn't he great? He's funny. He said yesterday he loves the Filet-O-Fish, but he has one recommendation. He said, you need more tartar sauce on the Filet-O-Fish. The guy, he's obsessed with the details. Let's just put it that way. But here, this is what the president is tapping into. This is what I want everybody to concentrate on here. There's a word that the left has used for years, and they've been using a lot recently, that they think is going to be their ticket to electoral success going forward, insofar as they can attract any voters at all. And the word is this: affordability. Affordability. They keep wielding it like a weapon. Affordability. We need to make things affordable in the United States of America. Now, you and I have very different approaches for how to make life affordable. What does it mean for something to be affordable? Well, it means that, one, you've got enough money to purchase it, and two, it is cheap enough that you will consider buying it. That's it. That's as straightforward as it can possibly be. For something to be affordable, especially if it's mandatory, if it's something that you have to have, like you need to take care of your health, or you need a roof over your head, or you need gas in your car, well, you need to be able to pay for that without going into debt. That's an obvious thing. That's what we talk about when we say affordability. The left has a very different definition here of affordability. What they mean is they want to tax Americans as much as humanly possible, take money away from them, and then distribute that money in such a way as to pretend like they've made your life more affordable. That's not what they're doing. They're orchestrating a cover-up. I'll give you an example. Obamacare is the perfect example of this. Obamacare, unfortunately, comes to pass. And as a result, what happened? Well, healthcare prices exploded in the United States of America because the government is in bed with the insurance companies, and they're robbing you blind to enrich the insurance companies. So healthcare costs have gone up, 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 up. And coming up in January, the Obamacare subsidies are going to be going away for some of the lower end of the income people who receive subsidies to help keep their healthcare costs down. Now, why are their healthcare costs high to begin with? It's Obamacare. And those subsidies are just a taxpayer-funded cover-up of how expensive the left has made healthcare in the United States of America. It's a complete disaster. And in fact, the left has driven costs up so much, oftentimes with assist from establishment Republicans in Washington, D.C., that America's never been in greater credit card debt than we are in now. Under Biden, we reached $1 trillion in credit card debt. That number has not abated. People are in massive amounts of high-interest debt because they can't make it from paycheck to paycheck, covering the basic expenses of everyday life. Getting control of that problem is the recipe for electoral success. And it is not by orchestrating a cover-up. It's not by printing more money. It's not by sending out checks to people. It's not by adding inflation to the economy. It's by getting the government out of the corruption of our economy, getting rid of the cronyism, getting rid of the economy it's not a free economy, it's a rigged economy, breaking the rigged economy and serving the American people. If you concentrate on that, you win. It is as straightforward as it possibly can get. I already saw it in the chat. It's the old James Carville line. It's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. Focus on that. The left is not looking to improve the economy. You think they want cheaper gas prices? Absolutely not. They see fuel as the enemy to their cronyism. They're not looking for that. You think they want cheaper grocery prices? No. In fact, the socialists in places like Seattle and New York City are looking to drive the grocery business out of business by taking over the grocery business and then calling it state-run grocery stores. You know how that works out? Yeah, we've seen how that works out in history. That leads to bare shelves and bread lines. Not interested. Thank you very much. And the left is trying to orchestrate a cover-up of healthcare costs. Again, to cover up their own sins. Insofar as there's a conversation around affordability right now, what the left is really trying to do is pretend like they're the firefighters when they've been the arsonists. They printed trillions of dollars of money during the Biden administration that drove up inflation. The reason you're paying more for everything now is because of the money that they printed. And man, money printing is a really nefarious and underhanded way to raise taxes on us, isn't it? It's when Congress can pass a spending bill. They pass a bill that they say, we're going to increase spending. Okay. Where are you going to get the money for that? You only got two options for that. One, you raise taxes. Well, three, I guess. Two, you cut spending somewhere else. The government never does that. Or the other option is you print money. So in the absence of raising taxes, which they don't want to pass a tax bill, they're like, oh, we're not going to raise your taxes, although lefties do want to raise your taxes, but they don't do it. And instead, they just print the money. That taxes you anyway. So now you're paying more for bread. Now you're paying more for milk. Now you're paying more for gas. Now you're paying more for healthcare. Now you're paying more for everything in that disgusting tax that we know is inflation. That's how they pull it off. Every single time. So President Trump is doubling down on his commitment to addressing the failures of the left and the destruction of the American economy. And it's just in time, thank God. And on this phrasing, I see some people on the right are concerned about this. Well, why you're using the left phrasing when you refer to affordability? No. You're co-opting it. You're taking it and you're making it our own. Yes, people deserve, to the best of their ability, work hard in order to make their lives as affordable as possible. And to the extent that the government is in the way or our economy is rigged, we need to stop that. We need to make our economy actually free, an actual capitalist economy, not a crony rigged economy. That's really important. And I'm glad to see the president is on this mission, because if he can commit to it and if he can get actual support from the Republicans in Congress, and let's be honest, sometimes that's a long shot getting these Republicans to get on board. If they can do that, the midterms are going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be good because Americans are going to look at their bank accounts. They're going to look at their families. They're going to look at their communities, and they say, man, I'm a lot better off than I was 4 years ago. And that's the key metric. More ahead on this edition of Vince. Thanksgiving's coming up. I love Thanksgiving. Cooking Thanksgiving is a very high-stakes event. It feels like one dried out turkey can ruin it all. Have you ever experienced that? It's maddening. You spend all day preparing, and then everyone's there waiting for the turkey, and then it's dry? What happened? Well, I'm here to tell you there's a way to prevent that from happening and have a perfectly cooked Thanksgiving turkey. It's called Chef IQ Sense. It's a wireless cooking thermometer. It takes the guesswork out of holiday cooking. Yeah, the USDA says turkey's got to hit exactly 165 degrees to be safe. And your eyes, well, they can deceive you, but Chef IQ ensures you hit that perfect temperature every time. Yeah, you want the meat to be like perfectly cooked and juicy. There's a sweet spot. You don't want to go beyond it. You want to be exactly there. So whether you're roasting, grilling, pan searing, even smoking the turkey, they've got you covered. It couldn't be easier. Just insert the sensor, tell the app what you're cooking, and then sit back and relax. And Chef IQ Sense will actually tell you such cool things as when to flip when you're cooking meat, or take it off the heat, and even how long to let it rest. Basically, it's like having a personal chef watching the stove so you can actually hang out with your guests. It's very convenient. No more oven peaking, no more dried out turkey, just perfectly cooked meals every time. And it works for steak and chicken and fish, whatever you're cooking. It's so helpful. You're going to wonder how you ever cooked without it, actually. Plus, it's the ultimate gift, perfect for seasoned cooks, kitchen rookies, and everybody in between. So now you can get 30% off site-wide with the code VINCE at chefiq.com. That's chefiq.com, promo code VINCE. Make Thanksgiving a huge success this year. chefiq.com, promo code VINCE. Thank you to Chef IQ. That's really great. Okay. So, affordability, baby. Is this a complicated topic? No, it's not a complicated topic at all. It's exactly where we need to be. Exactly where we need to be. I love it. I love it so much. And the left is cooking up as many distractions as they possibly can right now to try and take everybody's eye off the ball on this. They've been going on and on about Jeffrey Epstein lately, and President Trump just rug pulled their whole stupid talking point over the weekend. He said, "You want to talk about Epstein?" I kind of went over this in some detail with you yesterday, but the president came out and said, "If you want to talk about Epstein, fine. I'm launching a full-blown Justice Department investigation into all of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal relationships. That includes with a lot of these Democrats who are all exposed in these emails. And then 2, maximum transparency. Go ahead, Congress, make everything public. Do it. Go for it. I just want this whole stupid saga to be done with so I can get back to focus on all of the successes that we've had." Legit. I respect the president for this, and I get his instincts on this. And I've been calling for as much transparency on the Epstein evil for as long as humanly possible. So I'm glad to see all of those things come together. But the left, man, they do not know what to do with this. They have no idea how to handle the fact that the president is now calling for all these Epstein documents to be made public and for all these people to be prosecuted. So here, for instance, look at Chuck Schumer yesterday. He was asked about this. He's completely incoherent as he tries to process this. Cut 5. Take a look at this.
Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Or not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released?
Why wouldn't the Epstein files have been released the last 4 years when Biden was in office? Oh, that's the question every American is asking. What the hell is he hiding? Yeah, good question. That's about Joe Biden, you idiot. Like, did you hear the question? They're having a processing problem right now. They don't even know what to say to all of this. Hakeem Jeffries was asked about this yesterday too. The dial-up Democrat, slow-witted Hakeem Jeffries. Here he is. He says that by Donald Trump demanding full transparency on the Epstein stuff and prosecutions for anybody who committed crimes, that he's chickening out. Am I reading this correctly? Hakeem, here he is being a complete moron yesterday. Watch.
Are you comfortable with whatever information is in the Epstein files if it involves or potentially implicates Democrats?
Donald Trump appears to have chickened out on the Epstein scandal. He's caved. It's a complete and total surrender. Because as Democrats, we made clear from the very beginning, the survivors and the American people deserve full and complete transparency.
I just love how brazen it is. They don't even listen to the question. She's like, "You worried at all the Democrats are going to be exposed in all this?" Donald Trump has chickened out, and now the Epstein files are going to come out. Yeah, we know. That's the point. So the Epstein files are covered in Democrats. What was her face? Stacey Plaskett, the Virgin Islands Democrat, who was having all of her questions written for her in a congressional hearing in 2019 by Jeffrey Mother Flippin' Epstein. Epstein was writing her questions? Yeah. And the Democrats still have the huevos to stand up there and be like, Trump's got a lot to worry about here. Trump, you people are so completely absurd. In fact, listen to this question. So a reporter says, wait a second, why should any of us trust you, Hakeem? I love this question. Hakeem, why should anybody trust Democrats on this? You had Democrats colluding with Jeffrey Epstein to hurt Donald Trump, and you're telling us we should trust you? Listen to this. Cut 7. Watch this.
Why should Americans trust you and House Democrats on the Jeffrey Epstein files when one of your own, Congresswoman Plaskett, was found to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing, getting information from him, using that in her questioning during a congressional hearing, and at one point he tells her, good job.
This is a bipartisan effort to make sure that, consistent with what the survivors have requested, that there's full and complete transparency, and every single predator who may be in those Justice Department files doesn't escape accountability.
I love, who is that reporter? They're reporter of the day. They win the award. Reporter of the day for this edition of Events, who just asked a really simple question. Why should anybody trust you, you stinking liar? You've got people in your own party who are colluding with Jeffrey Epstein to destroy Donald Trump like a bunch of goons. And he stands up there and he's like, we just want to expose people and show things the light of day. Yeah, we've seen the light of day. The light of day does not reflect well on you. Light is exposing how dark and how demonic the behavior some of these Democrats have been, how awful they've been. Stacey Plaskett, who claims that she fights for survivors, she thinks pedophiles are awful. Lady, you were colluding with a pedophile to try and attack Donald Trump because you're upset that the American people put him into power. You're depraved. You're depraved. And so the answer to that question is you shouldn't trust them. Even in the face of overwhelming evidence that it's their party that is full of utter disgrace, they stand up there with a straight face and they pretend like the question that was asked had nothing to do with the sins of Democrats. Yeah. This is the leadership of that party. In case you're wondering, are they going to do any soul searching? Well, it would start with having a soul. That would to do a little bit of searching, because those are soulless responses from Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who, again, they're completely incoherent. They don't even know what to do with this. President Trump is running circles around them. He goes from saying it's a hoax, let's not even engage in this. Okay, fine. You want to engage in it? Release everything. They have no idea how to even process it anymore, which is typical. This is the way it usually works. He's running circles around them. Really amazing stuff. All right, coming up in just a moment, we'll be joined by the very talented and wonderful Matt Van Swol, friend of the show. Love having him stop by. We'll get an update on how things are going for him in the Carolinas. We've got that ahead. But first, hey, do doctors have Black Friday sales? Does that ever happen? That'd be cool. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition do. They just announced their Black Friday 30% off sale. It's the biggest sale of the year. The most impressive health and nutrition products in the whole industry are now 30% off. Like Lean, the doctor-formulated weight loss supplement for people who want to lose meaningful weight without injections. And 30% off of Creatone, which is creatine designed just for women to help you look leaner, in shape, and toned without extra dieting or exercise. Even 30% off of Field of Greens, the only superfruit and vegetable drink shown in a university study to actually slow aging. And only Field of Greens promises better health results that your doctor will notice. Every Brickhouse product, from better sleep to superior collagen, is 30% off. But I'm telling you, you've got to hurry. These are Black Friday deals, and they're going fast. Visit brickhousesale.com and save 30%. That's a special website. You got that? brickhousesale.com and save 30%. One more time, BrickHouseSale.com. Weight loss results will vary. These products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Also want to tell you about Beam's cyber sale. They've got a great sale going on. This is huge. It's now open, Beam Cyber Sale, for early access for my listeners, and it is their best offer of the whole year. Right now, you can get up to 50% off with my code VinceShow. No spaces, VinceShow. You can grab Dream for just $32.50. That breaks down to just $1.08 a night for the best sleep of your life. Go to shopbeam.com/VinceShow. Use my code VinceShow, and don't miss out. You see, this is the lowest price Dream has ever been sold anywhere, which means it's a great deal, and it's likely going to sell out very quickly. Dream is packed with ingredients that your body actually needs to help you sleep. Reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and yes, melatonin. But I'm telling you, this melatonin is dosed very intelligently. It's not like drugstore garbage that knocks you out, leaves you groggy, nothing like that. It's perfect. Now's the time. Beam is giving you the ultimate Patriot discount. Just go to shopbeam.com/VinceShow. Use the code VinceShow. Get up to 50% off during Beam Cyber Sale. You can grab Dream for just $32.50, but here's the catch. Dream is only available at this price until it sells out. So think about it. How much do you want to pay for a truly great night of sleep? With Beam's cyber price, it's just $1.08 a night. It's great. It's delicious, too. Go to shopbeam.com/VinceShow and try Beam today. Thank you to Beam for being a great sponsor of the program. Really appreciate that. All right. Joining us right now is the great Matt Van Swol. Good to have him back with us. He's on X at Matt Van Swol. He's a former nuclear scientist for the United States Department of Energy. He's a photographer. He's really done it all. Matt, great to have you with us again today, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Give me an update on Operation Charlotte's Web. Tell us about this program and what you guys are up to.
Yeah, so the Border Patrol decided to bring in some agents to Charlotte. We've been covering Charlotte for a while. They have a huge illegal immigrant population. I think most estimates, so the city is about 900,000 people. And estimates are about 100,000 of those people are illegal. So a huge portion. So DHS went in there with Border Patrol and rounded up, I think, 130 illegal immigrants. A lot of them were, I mean, truly some of the worst. One guy, was wanted for murder, multiple people for child sex crimes. I mean, just some of the worst people you can imagine. And you saw liberal activists. I've never seen anything like this. They were just like liberal activists were screaming at Border Patrol. They were so angry. If you go on like Facebook or Instagram, it's all of these people saying they're just rounding up random people off the street. And I'm staring at the arrest reports and I'm like, these are bad people. You don't want to live next to these people.
Don't you know? I mean, have you noticed like that if they actually had a real sob story, like an American citizen, some cute little American girl was taken into custody, like that, none of that's happened. None of that's happened. So everything is constantly like a make-believe operation where they like create some fiction that, Americans are being rounded up or people are being targeted for their skin color. And none of that's happening. It's almost like they wish that would happen in order to stop us from getting control of our borders.
Oh, 100%. There was this viral video of a man whose window was kind of beaten out, like broken by Border Patrol, and everyone was freaking out because it was an American citizen. And they were like, this is racial profiling. And then DHS a couple hours later was like, this man told us, out loud that he was trying to distract Border Patrol from arresting illegals. Okay, that makes sense. But you're right. Like if they actually had, I still have yet to hear, and I can't find one, an American citizen that has been deported by ICE or Border Patrol. I haven't heard of one. Like, where's the story? People get arrested all the time that don't end up getting convicted of crimes. It happens. I was stopped in Arizona by Border Patrol once, and it was, a little freaky. Nothing happened. I wasn't doing anything wrong. They just wanted to search the car because one of their dogs, perked on the car, and I went on my way. And that's That's just how it goes.
Did you feel racially profiled by that experience? Did they target you because of your skin color, you think?
No, I don't think so, Vince. No, I don't think so.
Well, yes. In other words, like it is like totally normal to have a situation where like, okay, just like these guys are just trying to do their jobs, and so like respect them for it. And look, I'm as big a fan as you can possibly be of Border Patrol and ICE, because what I desire is I want my country back. I don't think that it's good that tens of millions of people have poured across the border. I'm sorry that they were sold a false bill of goods. I'm sorry that they were misled into believing that they could stay here forever, because the American people would like their country back. And that's regardless of like skin color or creed or anything else. People just like, when you live here, it's the left had this position for years that Hispanic Americans must love illegal immigration because so many of the illegal aliens are Hispanic. That's insane. Have you spent any time talking to any Hispanic Americans? They are just like the rest of us. They want sovereignty. They don't want our country to be wide open. They want it to function, and they want it to be for Americans.
Correct. And, yesterday I saw a report that 21,000 children in Charlotte did not go to school because they were scared of the illegal immigration arrests. That's 15% of the entire school district of Charlotte didn't go to school because they were scared of being arrested by ICE. Imagine the class sizes if 20,000 kids were not here illegally. Imagine all those houses. The housing costs would drop precipitously. It's, I put out this tweet the other day. It's hard for me to think of a problem in the country that would not be either solved or get substantially more improved with deporting all illegals. It's hard for me to think of one.
Well, yeah, I mean, housing affordability is a huge one. You've heard from J.D. Vance recently talking about this. There's all these like things where Washington tries to work around the edges. How can we make houses more affordable? Well, here's a really obvious answer. If you deport 30 million people who shouldn't be here, or 20 million, if you want to be conservative, 10 million, whatever the number is, that's less competition for scarce resources, which is a roof over your head, which means more Americans can actually afford to buy one or rent one. This is very simple math. Why is it that Washington finds it impossible to do that math?
I think the optics are what kind of get people. I was talking to a couple of friends recently, and it's the optics of deporting someone that hasn't committed a violent crime. People just don't like the optics. It looks bad. And I think Congress is honestly gutless, especially the GOP. I'm a Republican now. I'm a registered Republican. I did that back in October for the first time.
Yes.
And it's really frustrating. I do feel like, a lot of the GOP in Congress, just don't want to do the will of the people. And it sucks, because this is one of the issues that Trump was very clear on. And by the way, Hispanics voted overwhelmingly for Trump. They swung huge to Trump in the election. And this is what the people voted for. And I wish Congress would actually do something here.
So far, the numbers are that 2 million people have self-deported from the country. 800,000 have been forcibly deported. That's 2.8 million people who've left already this year. That's progress. And I know the Trump administration wants a lot more, but I think you are pointing to a very real phenomenon, and it does exist on the right, by the way, too. So much of our attention is rightly focused on the peril that the left has foisted upon the country, but there are business interests on the right who are perfectly happy with looking the other way on illegal immigration, illegal aliens, because they've been using them. There's an exploitative labor relationship with illegal aliens that continues to persist in the United States, and it's often done through things like subcontracting, a little strategic distance from illegal aliens. But the reality is, basically there are people who are being paid indentured servant wages in order to do things in the United States. And there are coalitions on both sides of the political aisle who kind of look the other way to continue that system.
That's right. I was perusing the other way this happens is through H-1B visas, right? And
Yeah.
I was perusing some of the open H-1B opportunities, and I found that in North Carolina, they're wanting English teachers on H-1B visas to come to the United States to teach English. And I'm like,
What?
if we don't have anyone that can do that in North Carolina, and the wages were outrageously low. We're talking like $38,000. So that makes sense, right? You get someone from India to come over here and teach English. That's insane. We don't need an H-1B visa for that. I'm pretty sure you can find someone that's willing to teach English in America.
100%. The H-1B thing is a clear dividing line, I think, between I think the parties, but there is some fighting on the subject on the right. I would say fighting. There's a debate on the subject. President Trump seems kind of okay with the H-1B system, but a lot of his base is not, and I share that sentiment. I'm with his base. I think it's exploitative. I think that it exists to tie foreign workers directly to the company that they get the H-1B visa with. They have no portability, so they're not competitive on the open market. They don't get paid the wage that they would be worth if they were actually free to move jobs in the United States. And by extension, oftentimes there's a lot of Americans who are out of work who could have those jobs but don't because they're being given away to foreigners. That's not a system I like, Matt.
No, I don't like it either. And to your point about Trump, I do think one of the things I like about Trump, after listening to him for a while this year, is that he does kind of pivot and move based on the new evidence that you show him. My assumption would be that if someone showed President Trump that they were hiring English teachers in North Carolina on H-1B visas, he'd probably say, "We got to shut that down." I don't think he would be for that. And I understand his point of view, that there are some, let's just take Elon, for example, right? If there's another Elon out there, that, we should give that person an H-1B visa for sure. But
there's a category for that, though. I'm sorry, just to interrupt. There's a category for that. It's called an O-1 visa. There are extraordinary visas available for the most unusual geniuses on the planet. That is a separate category of visa. This H-1B thing, as everyone's been talking about, 80% of the H-1Bs are going to entry-level workers. These are just people. Goodness. Yeah, 80%. These are not Elon Musks that are being brought in. These are lever pullers. And as a result, there's lots of Americans who could use gainful employment at a realistic wage here in the United States of America. And we've kind of got a corrupt relationship. We definitely have a corrupt relationship between big business interests and the government that's selling people out that we should end.
No doubt. I had no idea that was 80%. That's wild.
It's massive. And also the numbers are crazy too, because speaking of 80% of the visas, the H-1B visas, go to Indian foreign nationals, and then 10% of them go to Chinese foreign nationals. So we're bringing in 90% are Indian and Chinese. And again, American citizens, they get the losing end of that stick. So, I started the show today, Matt, talking about affordability. The president is grabbing that bull by the horns, and rightfully so. That's a great thing, about how to make America a more affordable place to live and how to make it great for Americans. This is a part of that conversation, isn't it?
No doubt. Yeah. And, I saw, I think it was Benny Johnson say that the average homeowner now, or first-time home buyer, is 40, which is insane. You can't start you could start a family at 40, but it'd be a lot easier to start a family at 25, and that is, they really need to take a look at that. I know that permitting, if you're building a house in California, 30 to 40% of your entire cost of a build is permits alone. So, you could take a look at that. And then obviously deporting illegals, that'll bring, it's a simple supply and demand problem. You increase the supply by, deporting illegals. It's very simple.
So, okay, one of the reasons I like chatting with you, as you mentioned earlier, you just recently became a Trump voter, and you're a Republican, right? Do you consider yourself a Republican now?
I just registered. Well? Yeah, I'm just registered as a Republican.
So you just registered as a Republican, and I had a great conversation, and so people should go back if they want to see it, with you and your lovely wife, Erin, about how you've both arrived at this conclusion, and thankfully together. I mean, it'd be torture on your marriage if you didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do like asking you about the psychology of the left, because you were so recently a part of it, and I wonder, why is it that you have people, including in Charlotte, North Carolina, and all over the place, who have really become convinced that something awful is happening, that Donald Trump is a tyrant, that deporting people here illegally is a bad thing? How does that sort of mass delusion take hold? How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, I've been carefully watching the local news and national news on the left. And it's very easy to see because people will just repost whatever. I'm not on Instagram or Facebook, but my wife is. And you can see very clearly that people truly believe that ICE and Border Patrol are grabbing anyone that looks Hispanic off the street. That's what they believe. They believe that ICE is just coming for, they're racially profiling people and just pulling them off the street. And you'll read these articles, and the articles will just completely back up that worldview without any true facts of who they've actually arrested thus far. So you'll read this article of American citizen gets his windows smashed in, the one we were just talking about. And nowhere in the article is, oh, by the way, these 130 people they arrested, some of them are wanted for murder and child sex crimes. It's nowhere in the article anywhere. So if you were just to read the article on its face and look at tens of thousands of shares of these things amongst social media, you would think ICE is just randomly rounding up American citizens and for no benefit, right? There's no benefit. There's no positive outcome. And if that's what you read and that's what you believe and that's what your algorithm shows you, then you're going to get out there and protest. No doubt. It looks terrible. And, you know, I was in that media bubble for a while. I had no idea that illegal immigration was even a problem at all. I never knew that we had a border problem during the Biden administration. I had no idea until I got on Twitter. I had no idea. Zero.
Well, what did you think? It never penetrated at all? Like, you didn't hear anything about the debate or anything? Because, you know, remember early on in the Biden administration, for those of us who are following it closely, the Biden administration, insofar as they'd acknowledge it, they'd be like, yeah, we have a challenge on the border. Not a crisis. It's just a challenge. They would act like it was like some small thing, like they needed to get an oil change. That's nothing to worry about here. Did it just really never penetrated? It just never broke through the bubble that you were consuming?
I always thought that, you know, it was just some sort of right-wing talking point that was making a bigger deal out of something that wasn't a big deal at all. And so you kind of just like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's not like there might be like a trickle of people crossing the border, but most of that is just racism, right? You're just kind of being racist. And there's not a big problem. I had no idea, like the charts that I ended up seeing on X of people crossing the border, I never saw any raw numbers of people crossing the border. There was never any talk that it was actually a problem. And there was
tens of thousands of Chinese nationals coming across the border. People, like, nobody tells you that.
I had no idea. And there was also no explanation of why is that a problem? Right. There's no like we're having now, you know, we can very easily articulate why that is a problem. Never even crossed my mind that it was occurring or that it could potentially become a very big problem.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of crystal clear reasons, I think, in my mind, some of which took long for me to establish, but I've arrived at this place in my life where I can assess it this way. One is, of course, the impact on the social safety net, clearly drawing off of the taxpayer resources, and you're not even entitled to it, including emergency rooms and healthcare expenditures. Another is the extent to which our housing is overwhelmed by people who shouldn't be here. Another is the extent to which our electoral systems are overwhelmed by people who shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be drawing congressional districts based on illegal aliens, which we currently are. We shouldn't be apportioning the electoral college based on illegal aliens, which we currently are. And then probably the biggest one, as far as I'm concerned, and those are all big ones, but the biggest one is the cultural impact on the United States. I mean, I keep using a reference to, because I think it's appropriate, to the Old Testament Tower of Babel. Like, at some point, if your community has no cohesion whatsoever, it collapses. If you don't share a language or a culture, if you don't assimilate, the whole thing falls apart. And when the left, which opened the doors to this kind of destruction, basically come swooping in and go, hey, everything's falling apart. You want us to rescue you? That's really the arsonist responding to the fire. And I hate that, because what it means is that our country becomes less self-reliant. People become less engaged in healthy communities and more dependent on a government that actually doesn't have your best interest at heart at all. They just want to exploit you for their own advancement of power. This is a disastrous recipe, and using human beings in this way is a part of the plan.
Right. And I feel like it's sold as kindness and empathy towards
Yes.
people who are hurting. And so you'll get people like me and my wife who feel bad. We don't want people to suffer. We don't want people to get hurt. But we don't also think, or I didn't think, of all of the potential implications of what that meant, like you just very clearly articulated there. I'll give you just a quick example that's kind of personal to me. I recently was talking to a North Carolina public school teacher who has a ton of kids in her class that don't speak any English at all. And she has an app on her phone that she uses to translate every single instruction to the kid in Spanish, that she just goes, blah, blah, speaks into it and then tells the kid. And that slows down the classroom a ton. And I also learned that's not unique. It happens all over the place. Again, like I wasn't thinking about this, I wasn't thinking, this could hurt kids in public schools because, people don't speak English. I had no idea. And I just think, that's part of the problem. You just don't think through these kind of implications when you're just feeling bad for someone.
Yes. And what you just described, though, I think is the skeleton key to the psychosis that we're witnessing on the left. There's a form of moral blackmail that is used in order to keep people locked into place to the point that they begin demonizing their political opponents as not having being not human at all. And that's why you're seeing on the left this rampant sort of unfortunate assassination culture where half of all lefties think that it'd be perfectly okay to see President Trump assassinated. That's insane, and that is the product of that kind of thinking. Which we have to work as hard as we can to break, because, we've got a country worth saving. Matt, thank you, as always. Great to talk to you, and thank you for helping us explore all of this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Vince.
There he is, Matt Van Swol. You can find him on X, Matt Van Swol. Assuming X is working now. I know it wasn't working this morning. X was down. It's crazy. Anyway, thank you to Matt. He's really great. Speaking of the thinking of the left, there's a story that I want to explore with you. I'm reading and I was cracking up at this. This comes to us from NPR, which apparently is still around, National Public Radio, or as my friend Chris Plant calls it, National Panhandler Radio. For years, they were taking your money. Give us money, please. And here's what they say today. More liberals and people of color and LGBTQ Americans say they're buying guns out of fear. They're buying guns out of fear. Now, I love when the left writes headlines like this. I love it because I think it's the funniest thing. So for years, you and I, any of the people who actually believe in the Second Amendment for its original intent, what it's about, we've said forever that the purpose of the Second Amendment is to be a bulwark against tyranny, that an armed populace is a good and important way to prevent the tyrannical behaviors of government. And it's also a great way to defend your family. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. It's also a great way to ensure our country's national security. Any foreign force that would think of invading the United States of America would have to factor into its wargaming that Americans own over 600 million private firearms. You might want to consider that before you invade us. It's great. And now the left is doing something that it does every so often, but usually when Donald Trump is president, they're flirting with, well, lefties now think it's time to buy guns, and they pretend like you're going to get mad that people of various skin colors are purchasing guns too, which is really funny. Oh, yeah? Conservatives, you like your guns? Well, guess what? People of color are now buying guns. Well, first of all, you idiots, people of color are, by and large, even more with each passing day, conservatives. In fact, black voters are moving in the direction of the Republican Party, which is great news. Returning home to the Republican Party, which is great news. But the way the left writes about it, they have these very flat assumptions about literally everything. They're bigoted assumptions. And they think that conservatives would be upset that, quote, people of color are buying guns. No, not upset about that at all, actually. In fact, I find that usually when I go to gun shows, that's one of the most diverse rooms I've ever stood in. And just in terms of just looking around and seeing the colors of humanity around me, everybody's buying guns. And it's wonderful. I love that. Because it turns out, especially legal gun owners are people who care about doing things the right way and getting the guns and knowing how to use them. If you're a concealed carry permit holder, chances are your state requires you to go through hours of training and discipline on when to actually draw your weapon and cautioning you against drawing it at an unnecessary moment. All of these things. In fact, I love to see more Americans understand how to both own and use firearms with each passing day. It's a great thing. And so the left is trying to fearmonger about this, acting as if the right is going to be offended by it. Not offended. I love it. And they say that lefties are now buying guns because they're concerned about the Trump administration becoming tyrannical, which is hilarious for a million reasons. One is that Trump is not the tyrant. Trump is the remedy to tyranny. We elected Trump in no small part because the government had become tyrannical under the control of the left and the deep state. And in fact, the reason we keep demanding accountability on this show to include all sorts of arrests, prosecutions, and convictions and sentences is because we want accountability for the tyrants who've misused their power against the American people. We desire law and order, not tyranny. We desire constitutional government, not out of control, unconstitutional government. And yet the NPR is insisting that, people are scared of the Trump administration, so they're buying guns now, to which I say, fantastic. I think this is wonderful. It's hilarious that they're arriving at this conclusion because they have no idea what's actually going on. They have no idea that President Trump has been faithful to the law and the Constitution. But if they're ingesting this concept, the correct concept, that the Second Amendment is designed to be a bulwark against tyranny and that they're entitled, if they're an American citizen, to engage in that Second Amendment right, the more the merrier. This should end the stupid debates that the left tries to foist upon you, that they need to make your guns less safe. They need to take away the devices and the accessories that make your guns accurate, that they need to somehow limit the capacity of your magazines, that they get to tell you what guns you're allowed to own, that they have to take the AR-15 out of your hands because the single most popular rifle in the country needs to be taken away from the American people. These are the arguments that they've had for years. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying, well, lefties feel like it's really important to get armed just in case the government becomes tyrannical. Even if you are arriving at this conclusion with a demented series of logic, if you can even call it that, a demented, like pattern of logic, I'm still okay with people realizing what the Second Amendment is for. I'm happy with that. Now, do we have to break people of the spell of misinformation that they're being served by the legacy media? Absolutely. But at the end of this, what we really need to do fundamentally is we need to restore appreciation for our nation's Constitution. We need to restore national cohesion. And we need to restore all of the things that make America great. All of it. A country by and for Americans. That's what this is about. And we're going to keep fighting for it every day here on this program. I am with you on the big national radio show today, The Vince Show. The Vince Show. Sorry. So people are talking to me about the desk pounding. I was pounding earlier. Sorry, I pound and people hear it through the microphone. Did you hear that at all, Isaac? No, Isaac says he didn't hear it, but some people heard it. So it's obviously getting out there. And then somebody said do the Bongino desk pound. I love America. There you go. Sorry for the desk pound. I know that came through. The Vince Show, you can listen to the big national radio show today. Go to thevinchshow.com, get your local listings. You can watch us do it live, rumble.com/Vince, and I will be back with you tomorrow for another exciting edition, a well-caffeinated edition of Vince. Up next here on Rumble, Steven Crowder. Stand by for that.